Hey guys, welcome to today's video where I'm going to be talking about my journey as a first year tech trainee solicitor at a Magic Circle law firm. And if you're new to this channel, my name is Lorraine and I share my journey from being a London law student to becoming a tech lawyer in the England of the Wales. And if you're interested in topics such as being a career changer or legal tech and everything else in between, because law is not our personality, please do give it a like, share and subscribe. Cheesy part over, let's get into it. As I've mentioned, I've just finished up being a first year tech trainee solicitor at a Magic Circle law firm. Woo, woo. And so what does that mean? So the way that it works at my law firm is I do 4 rotations of 6 months each. So in year 1, there's 2 rotations, and year 2, there's a further 2 rotations. And so in the last 12 months, where have I been? I've been in the corporate TMT department of the firm, which stands for Tech, Media and Telecommunications. And I've just finished up my second seat in the litigation and real estate. Wow. I've just finished up my seat in the litigation and real estate innovation hub of the firm as part of my Ignite training contract, which I'll explain in a bit more detail in a sec. But as a corporate TMT trainee, what did I do? So for the first couple of months, a lot of what I was doing, I was working on the M&A side. And if you're not familiar with the concept, M&A just stands for mergers and acquisitions. And in most of the deals that I was on, we were working for the buyer in a deal. So what does that entail? So typically you might have like a large company or a private equity house trying to buy another company that they want to take on. So some of the tasks that I was doing was helping to manage what's called a data room. From what I've heard, back in the day, this used to actually be a physical room or basement somewhere at the seller's kind of base, where they would have all their key documents and contracts that as a buyer you want to go through for due diligence purposes. Why is this important? Well, it's like buyers beware. So you want to make sure that what you're getting for your client is of value. So some of the tasks that the lawyers do on the deal is analyze the key contracts with suppliers, the key agreements that they might have. Let's see if it's a tech company or something that's special. You might want to analyze the IP rights and make sure that they're registered properly. If they have property, you want to make sure that they own the title to that land. So again, the buyer knows what they're getting into and that what they're getting is of value. So as a trainee, one of the jobs that I had to do with fellow trainees was just to keep a track of what's coming in the data room. And let's say, for example, if we had more questions for the seller, we'd be part of that process of helping to put more questions and monitor them as they get answered and come in. Another task that we took on as trainees on that deal was helping to manage what's called the conditions precedent. So just before, obviously, everyone signs off and says, yay, let's swap money, let's buy this thing, swap contracts, all that kind of stuff, you might have certain conditions that need to be fulfilled before the sale or the acquisition can go through. So as a trainee, you might be in charge of managing the checklist of key documents and key provisions and milestones as they come in. And another thing that we were in charge of as trainees as a group on a particular deal was holding the pen on the master report. So the master report is basically what you give to the buyer to say, okay, well, we've analyzed all the key contracts, the due diligence, etc. This is what we found. Buyer beware, you might want to read this. There you go. So when you hold a pen on the document, because lawyers, we don't use Google Drive or make edits live at the same time, because you want to keep a true version of everything that you do, you'll have one person, trainee, holding the pen, making sure that everyone's comments and additions to this huge report get added in. So if you've ever seen a prospectus of like 300 pages, just pour one out for the homies who had to sit there and look all over that. But it was a really good task as a trainee because it taught me how some of the associates think, but also one of your tasks when you're holding the pen is putting it into one voice. So you had to go through, check every comma, everything, make sure it's perfect and make it sound like one person had written it. So that's just a short synopsis of the first few months in TMT. The kind of second half of my 6 months in that first seat were more what I would call advisory work of the firm. And so what does that mean? Well, to be fair, this experience taught me that I may not necessarily be a M&A lawyer or a transactional lawyer, but I really did enjoy the advisory side, which is more like genteel. You kind of sat there pondering legal questions, researching, etc. So one of the coolest things that I got was a really good associate who gave me the freedom to take charge of a particular vendor due diligence report that needed to go out to a client. So they put me in charge of liaising with the vendors of the client, getting their answers back to the questionnaire, and actually drafting this report from the ground up, which I really appreciated because it gave me kind of that responsibility and confidence that I'd lacked in the first half of my training contract, where I was like, oh my goodness, am I good enough? Am I doing the right thing? Scream, kind of thing. And it was really, really cool just to see a piece of work from start to finish and then delivered. And so a lot of my time was spent kind of researching legal points. Another cool thing that I got to do in the second half of my seat was more what's called business development type of tasks. So I was researching a particular area of or digital innovation, etc. And so it actually ended up with one of the partners asking me to present to a prospective client again, which is an insane opportunity for a trainee. So I really enjoyed that part of the department, if I'm honest with it all. But yeah, those were my first 6 months as a TMT, corporate TMT trainee. And so my second seat, which I've just finished up now, was in litigation and real estate, and I was shadowing the firm's innovation hub. So what's unique about my training contract is that unlike a typical trainee, I do my rotations, but one of my seats is dedicated to innovation and tech, which is a first in the legal market in the UK. And I do believe, yeah, you might have to correct me with this, but I do believe currently my firm is the only one that offers you the chance to not only train as a lawyer, but focus on tech and still qualify as a lawyer at the end of it, rather than having an apprenticeship. So which is a really unique proposition. And if you're not familiar with my background, so I studied law originally at UCL in London, and then in my final year I also went to LSE at the same time, where I did information technology law. So that's where my interest in tech kind of was given birth to. And then I worked in tech for almost 5 years after graduating in 2016. So my first job, I was coding financial regulations into software for asset managers at fund apps. And then in my second job, I was training artificial intelligence to read commercial agreements at Thought River. So that's where I got my interest and kind of my background. So in my second seat, like I said, I was in the litigation and disputes resolution / real estate hub, shadowing some of the business professionals who work with the fee earners, lawyers, of that practice area. So what was I doing? So some of my main tasks for the last 6 months, first of all, if you're a lawyer, you'll understand that what I'm saying right now, but not having to bill your time for 6 months is like unheard of. And a beautiful, beautiful thing to not have that pressure. So for 6 months, I didn't necessarily have to bill anything, but I was more focused on just analyzing what the department was doing and how I could help. So for example, in litigation, I was helping to train the lawyers on a piece of software that helps them to put together bundles in a very easy and manageable way. And if you're not familiar with what a bundle is, basically, if you've ever watched any legal TV drama, you know when they go to court with like files of stuff and they present to a judge? Somewhere, some trainee or paralegal had to sit there and put together that dossier and document. And so the software that I was training the other lawyers to use helps them to do that digitally. So no one has to sit there on a Saturday with Tipex renumbering things when you have last minute changes. So that was a really, really cool project for me to take a lead on and basically put through that change within the firm and kind of promote that piece of tech or process improvement. Another thing that I was involved with was the Economic Crime Act recently came into force. So one of the partners in real estate asked me, could I come up with a process to help with one particular part of the legislation? So for the last couple of months, I've literally gone from ideation, having a prototype, to having a particular solution that I've now been able to present to the real estate department, which for a trainee is pretty cool. What else have I done? So for example, again, in real estate, helping to manage on a large transaction. So for example, you might have, or at the firm I work, you might have a large portfolio of real estate that you need to analyze. Again, someone somewhere would have to sit and like look through the leases and say, okay, what are the key provisions? Are there key differences, etc.? I was there to help promote some of the technology that helps the lawyers to mass compare hundreds and hundreds of leases within a matter of seconds. I've also been involved with learning regex, which is regular expressions, to extract data from documents, again, without a solicitor having to kind of read through and parse that data. So for me, in summary, without obviously giving away too much because NDAs and being professional, that's a kind of a synopsis of what I've been doing as a tech trainee lawyer in my first year at a Magic Circle law firm. And you might be wondering, what next? So I will be going into the firm's banking and finance team this week, today, depending on when you're watching this. If it's a Monday, the 5th of September, then today is my first day as a second seat trainee. But yeah, I'll be focusing more on the debt capital markets, which should be really interesting because I do find that area interesting. And it was also the seat that I did when I initially did my vacation scheme. And I do have a further exciting announcement to make, but I'm still waiting for a couple of things to be sorted out, so keep your eyes peeled. But that's literally a synopsis of my journey so far. So if you'd like to hear a little bit more of what I'm getting up to, please do let me know. My name is Lorraine, and if you enjoy this video, you'd like to know more about what it takes to be a tech trainee lawyer, please do like, share, subscribe, comment below on what else you'd like me to talk about as I go through this journey. Thank you.